High school sports, we've got it covered. Overtime, sponsored by Wendy's. They got you for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and everything in between.
Hello everyone, welcome to Overtime, your weekly place to huddle for high school football action. I'm Scott Leber.
And I'm David Greenberg. This has been the busiest Friday night of action so far this season. We have plenty of highlights ready to come your way. We'll get a look at two of the area's premier quarterbacks in action. Will Gustafson and Logan Emmanuel, and Tim Bailey is here to discuss the big NIC 10 game on tap for tomorrow between Hononegah and Harlem.
And we'll spotlight Harlem quarterback James Cooper Jr., who is putting up touchdowns almost as fast as David and I put away popcorn.
Almost.
That's really fast, too. Well, let's get started with tonight's action in the Big Northern Conference.
It's the rivalry in the Big Northern. BYRON against Stillman Valley. Tigers ball here. Braden Smith takes the pressure, feels the pressure, gets taken down by Aiden Orlando, who comes in screaming for the sack. This time, Smith hands it to Louis Kretzinger, who's just going to move the pile and pick up a few yards. Later in the drive, Smith pitches to Chandler Brinkley, and he will not be denied on his way to the end zone. Stillman Valley tried to get the ball moving on offense, but that BYRON defense just wouldn't allow it. Josh Hillsberg taken down immediately by Rundle and Johnson again. BYRON will get the ball back, and Braden Smith takes it himself, sealing this one. It was BYRON over Stillman Valley, 31-14. There was some more Big Northern action being played at Harlem tonight.
Yeah, that's where Winnebago played GENOA-KINGSTON. The Indians had a dramatic comeback win at Dixon last week. The Genoa student section was just a bit fired up to be at Harlem's Peterson Stadium. COGS at the Bago 10. Owen Simmons is a physical runner. He powers in for the touchdown. It was 7-0 early. COGS were on the move again moments later, but Ben Franson is going nowhere because Bago's Austin Walls sees to it with a big-time tackle there. Moments later, it's Connor Schwichtenberg on the QB keeper, just enough to get across the goal line from the one. It was 14-0 COGS. Later in the second quarter, counteraction from the COGS, and does it ever work? Joshua Oates dances in from 23 yards out for a 21-0 lead. The COGS go on and improve their record to 3-0 as they take down Bago 34-21.
Now we head to Oregon, where North Boone Vikings were taking on the Hawks right off the bat. North Boone goes for the onside kick, and Ben Castillo recovers the ball for North Boone. Now the Vikings are driving. Logan Emmanuel takes the snap, fires, and it's picked off by Brody Masoli. There's a nice return after the play. Oregon ball after the turnover. Brecken Burns hands off to Andrew Herbst on the sweep, taking it to the sideline, picking up a nice chunk of yards before being brought down out of bounds. Hawks ball near the goal line. Burns hands to Wiley Rice, and he takes it in for the score. However, North Boone would come right back as Emmanuel drops back and finds Will Dutch, who makes the defender miss and cuts it upfield for the touchdown. North Boone wins 25-12. In Mendota tonight, the Trojans lit up the Rock Falls Rockets 42-28. And there's one more Big Northern game to be played tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock. Rockford Lutheran hosts Dixon. Coming up next, we'll turn our focus to the NIC 10 with highlights from 3 games, including the Battle of Belvidere.
And we'll look ahead to the big one tomorrow, Hononegah against Harlem. Tim Bailey will join us in the studio to share his thoughts on that one, plus a look back at Boylan's win over Hononegah last week. It's all right here on Overtime.
High school football in the NIC 10 was a big deal in Belvidere back in the days when there was one high school and one football program.
Those BUCS teams under Vern Pottinger and then Mike Hearn, they were something else. 14 years have passed since then. Now it's all about the rivalry between Belvidere and Belvidere North. The latest game in that rivalry played out tonight at Belvidere North. Second half, it's the BUCS ball. Justin Dennis has no time to pass. Who was that streaking in there? Khalil Mack? No, it's Tavion Wilson with the sack. First North possession in the second half, and Tyrone Breaks gets the handoff, and boy, that was way too easy. Next possession, and it's Breaks again, breaking right through the heart of the BUCS defense to the end zone. On the offensive end, Mason Weckler is playing QB for North. He keeps it, and the BUCS won't catch him either. That's another TD, and for the 4th straight year, the Blue Thunder win this rivalry game, blanking the BUCS 48-0.
In Freeport, the Pretzels tangled with the Guilford Vikings. Freeport got off to a hot start. Handoff goes to Kyrie Shirley around the right side. He gets the edge, tries tiptoeing the sidelines. He thinks he's in, but the refs rule him down at the 1. Not to worry, because Teron Jackson's there. He cleans it up and punches it in for the early score. This running back by committee the Pretzels use is deadly. Shirley again this time, breaking away from an arm tackle, making his way down the sideline. And how about this effort? Almost getting in for 6, but he stopped just a couple yards short. And when you run it well, that sets up your play action. Xavion Segner links up with Devonjay Hereford for the score. Guilford did get one in before the half. Zane Kataj taking the handoff. This was a close one, but Freeport edges Guilford 16-12.
The East E-Rabs looked fantastic the last 2 weeks. Could they keep it going tonight against Jefferson? Early on, their defense stepping up. Linebacker Lee Smith forces the Jayhawks to cough it up. Later in the first half, the Jayhawks want to pass, but it's another turnover. A pick by Shamar Holt. East running game was as strong as its defense. This is Shamar Lewis walking into the end zone. Celebration time. How about a chest bump? There it is. E-Rabs running back C.J. Scary Berry. Scary because he can take it in the house every time he touches the ball. What a run that was. 45 yards to the end zone. Then it's Torrey Burnell rolling out left, going for the end zone, and he's got Jayon Hoggabook for 6 more. And folks, this score is not a typo. East clobbered Jefferson 86-6. According to my notes, 86 points is a Nick 10 record. A stunning total considering there was a running clock in the second half. Well, for the second straight weekend, the biggest Nick 10 battle will play out on Saturday afternoon. Last week it was Hononegah against Boylan.
This week it's Hononegah against Harlem. The Indians will try to bounce back from a 21-7 loss to the Titans. They came out of that game fine physically. The bigger question is, how will they bounce back emotionally? As that was a game they had their hearts set on winning.
I know that Saturday when we got back to school, I spoke with a few of them, and there was a little bit of shock, disbelief, and that sort of thing. And we talked about, hey, we set those expectations, and you knew what was going to happen. You know the type of team Boylan is, and we've said the same thing about Harlem. They're going to bring their A game every single time, and we've got a lot to prove now this week to ourselves primarily.
I feel like we put it behind us and we're ready to go. Like, we were right there. We just didn't make all the plays we needed to.
Harlem is 3-0, and the Huskies' passing game has been unstoppable so far this season. James Cooper Jr. has already passed for 11 touchdowns, and he has 2 dynamic receivers to throw to, and Dominic McCarron and Dezion Jordan. The Huskies put 44 points on the board last week at Belvidere North, and they didn't even play well offensively for a good portion of the first half. So that begs the question, how much better can this offense get?
For offense not playing good and scoring 44 points, that's a lot. Just to think how our offense would do if we don't have mistakes and we execute how we're supposed to.
If we hit on all cylinders, it could get really, really dynamic. I mean, we've got a couple kids we're still waiting on to come out of the COVID situation, and hopefully we get them back this week or next week. And once that happens, we'll be fine.
To discuss that game, we're joined by our studio analyst, Tim Bailey, a former Boylan Titan, a football standout and the top trainer at Mercy Health Top Performers. And Tim, let's start with James Cooper Jr. You have seen a lot of Nick 10 quarterbacks in your time. What is it about Cooper Jr. that it catches your eye and excites you?
Well, first of all, he's probably arguably one of the most prolific passers in the Nick 10 history. He does it not just only with his arms, but he does it with his head. He's very smart. He's poised in the pocket. The kid doesn't really turn the ball over. He's done, since he's been a freshman, he had a little mishap his freshman year with the wrist. He comes back the next 2-3 years, and he's been just phenomenal. So, sky's the limits for this kid. I think, a lot of people would argue with me, but in my eyes, I've seen the Nick 10 for quite some time. He's arguably one of the actual most prolific passers in Nick 10 history.
Yeah, and just going off of that, no quarterback is complete without a good set of wide receivers, and Harlem has 2 great ones, Dezion Jordan and Dominic McCarron. What kind of things can Hononegah do tomorrow to maybe slow that trio down a little bit?
Well, Hononegah likes to, run a little cover two. Looks like I watched some film on them. They look like they run a little soft cover two. When you have a offense that's as potent as the Harlem's offense, you have to be able to slow the receivers down. You don't want the receivers to be able to get into the top of their routes, because if that happens and they're going to be able to get out of that route, it becomes a more easier play for the quarterback and the receivers to move the ball. So if I'm Hononegah, I definitely want to try to get my paws on those receivers, slow them down as they come off the line, and don't allow these guys to get into their routes, because these are two types of receivers, Jordan and McCarron. These are two types of guys that can actually have, a big game. They're explosive, they're playmakers, they're game changers. So, you really want to slow those guys down.
We do want to jump back to last week. You were at the Boylan-Hononegah game, start to finish. Boylan pretty much controlled that game the whole way. What did you make of Boylan controlling that game like that? Huh?
Well, they came out just on fire, Scott. I mean, execution was there, offensively, defensively. I mean, everybody, it was a concerted effort. There was no one individual in that game that really stood out and said, okay, this is the guy that's going to be player of the game. So in my eyes, that day, the entire Boylan offense, defense, and special teams were the players of the game. I mean, they played well. And sky's the limits for that team in particular the next couple weeks.
Harlem has never, this group of seniors has never beaten at Harlem, has never beaten Hononegah. How much more do you think that fuels them to go out there tomorrow and pick up a win? They're the first of their career.
Well, it's important. These are the games that, when you get my age, you want to sit back and talk to your friends and talk about these big games that you were part of. And no one likes to be a loser. You lost your varsity, you lost your junior year to Harlem, and then you come back and you lose your senior year to a Harlem or Hononegah. So, you want to have those bragging rights, so to speak. And I think Harlem's going to come out on fire. I think Hononegah is going to respond as well. I think, the loss last week left a sour taste in their mouth. I think they're going to be ready to play. I think we're going to really see a good battle on both sides of the ball tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. Weather might be a factor. There's rain in the forecast, so we'll see what happens there. Tim, as always, thanks a lot for your insights.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, guys.
We're going to have more, by the way, on James Cooper Jr. in our Spotlight segment in a bit, but coming up next, highlights from the Northwest Upstate Illini Conference.
We'll check out another quarterback who's been lighting it up. AQUIN's Will Gustafson leading his guys against East Dubuque.
The AQUIN Bulldogs were really good last year when they went undefeated until the 1A state quarterfinals when they lost to Lena Winslow.
Most of their key guys are back, so it's no surprise that they're playing even better this year. One of those key returners is quarterback Will Gustafson. You can find him breaking down the team and here in the shotgun on 4th down, firing on a slant to Andrew Bowman, who picks up the first down and then some, taking this one all the way for the first score of the game. Each week, Gustafson lights up the stat sheet in the rushing column. He broke one here, shifting into high gear before getting pushed out of bounds, but it's called back for a holding. AQUIN found the end zone again here. It's Ty Steekel busting through the middle and finding a crease. The Bulldogs poured it on in the second half and remain unbeaten, the 40-12 win.
Let's check out more NUIC action. Forreston taking on Rockford Christian, a running team against a passing team. Although here, the running team, Forreston passes the ball in the final play of the first half, and Jordan Neuschwander has it, a 21-yard touchdown, and it was party time in the end zone if you were wearing red and white. In the third quarter, the Cardinals get back to their roots, running the football. Devontae King Black scores from 2 yards out. The Royal Lions get 6 back here when Caden Norquist scores on the keeper. And the Royal Lion was busting some moves after that one. How about that? In the fourth quarter, Norquist goes deep to his main target, Isaiah Johnson. He got behind the secondary. That's a touchdown. Get that man Johnson on your NUIC fantasy team. But Forreston dominated this game, winning it 48-23. Neuschwander, by the way, rushed for 234 yards for Forreston. In Lanark, Milledgeville knocked off EPC 22-12. The Missiles are 3-1. And Amboy gets a win at home. The Clippers beat West Carroll 16-8. There will be 2 more NUIC games tomorrow, both at 1 o'clock. DuPuque plays at Orangeville, and Stockton will play Galena.
We have a few more scores to pass along tonight in 8-man football. They had a great game in Kirkland. Polo edged Hiawatha 24-22, and the Sobos of South Beloit handled AFC 58-18. Also tonight, Rochelle nipped Sandwich 13-12. Sycamore defeated Morris 21-14. James Cooper Jr. has stacked up 4 impressive seasons as the quarterback for the Harlem Huskies.
And we're going to feature him next as we learn about the first position he played in football and how he evolved into one of the greatest offensive weapons in Nick 10 history. In just over 2 weeks, one of the great high school football careers in the Nick 10 will be finished. Harlem quarterback James Cooper Jr. will take off his Huskies uniform for the last time. He'll move on to bigger things, but his name will live on in the Harlem record books and the Nick 10 record books for a long time. Cooper Jr. holds pretty much every Harlem record for passing. The same could soon be true for the Nick 10. He's already the conference's all-time leader in touchdown passes. Going into this weekend, he needs only 148 yards passing to become the conference's all-time leader in passing yards. He's had some remarkable receivers to throw to the last 4 years.
It is amazing, especially Brant, Jalon, Dezion, and Dom.
But there's no mistaking Cooper's skills.
He's just hammering it. He's reading his reads, hitting his keys. He's got that dual threat now.
On Monday, the Chicago Bears honored Cooper as their all-star high school player for Week 2. That was after Cooper accounted for 6 touchdowns against Freeport. He followed that up with 6 more total touchdowns in Week 3 against Belvidere North. Cooper's days as a quarterback started when he was very young.
For my flag football, my first year I played for the Packers, and I started off as center for like 3 games because we had another quarterback. He ended up getting hurt, and ever since then I played quarterback, so since I was 5.
The first time I interviewed Cooper, he was a student at Harlem Middle School. He and 2 of his buddies had been picked to attend the prestigious Top Gun Kids Camp in Dublin, Ohio. That's run by current and former NFL players and coaches.
The coaches were they knew a lot of things. I learned a lot of new things. It was really big.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Do you remember
that? Was so long ago.
And here you are, 5-6 years later, breaking all kinds of records and stuff. I mean, when you were a little kid back then, did you think you were going to have this kind of success in high school?
I mean, I thought I was always going to be okay. I was going to be the mediocre quarterback, And just to come out and break all the records, I definitely did not expect that at all.
As a freshman, Cooper shared the quarterback duties on Harlem's varsity team with Troy King. This is Cooper's very first varsity touchdown pass to Connor Aldrich against Jefferson. You remember that?
Yeah, it was rolling out to the right. Yeah.
What was that feeling like? As a freshman?
As a freshman, it was crazy. Threw the ball, kind of blind, didn't really see it. Far all the way down there, all I heard was the crowd go crazy. I was like, I just did it. That's the beginning of it all.
Since that first touchdown pass, Cooper has thrown 61 more for Harlem. We see his arm strength, we see his running ability, we see his accuracy. Is there something else that you see that the rest of us don't see that just kind of makes you go, wow?
I think his love and passion for the game. I mean, I think he has a genuine love for the football.
You have accomplished so many things, set so many records. Once you take off that Harlem uniform for the last time, will you be satisfied?
I don't know. I guess, as you know, the rivalries in the Nick 10, Hano and Boylan. Only, I guess you can say I beat them my freshman year, but I had a broken wrist at the time, and that's the only time I've ever beat Boylan. I've yet to beat Hano, so if we can't do that this year, I probably won't be satisfied.
He will get that chance tomorrow. Cooper's next team, by the way, will be one of the top junior college football programs in the Midwest, Iowa Western. Cooper was hurt by the pandemic when it came to recruiting. The lack of a season last fall meant he didn't get as many offers as he otherwise would have because college coaches just didn't get to see him play.
Yeah, the lack of fall season hurt a lot of our local athletes, but we have no doubt that Cooper will make the best of his opportunity at Iowa Western.
Well, let's take one final timeout and check out another overtime flashback. It was November 1st, 2008. The unbeaten Dakota Indians hosted the 5-4 Orangeville Broncos in a first-round playoff game. Dakota was riding a 23-game winning streak, and the Indians were coming off a state championship the year before. But for this game, Dakota was without starting quarterback Austin Oberbrunner. He was on crutches with a broken bone in his leg. Without him, the Dakota offense struggled to move the ball. Orangeville rose up and played its best game of the year. Broncos quarterback Trace Hansen threw an early touchdown pass, and running back Riley Kubatsky rushed for 131 yards and a touchdown. The Broncos bolted out to a 20-7 halftime lead, and that's the way the game ended. The Broncos had a rare playoff win, leaving Dakota stunned. We're not done yet. We've saved the best for last. We wrap up this show with our play of the night.
Let's head on back to Freeport, where running back Kyrie Shirley takes the handoff from Xavion Segner. He gets to the edge, shake and bakes an arm tackle, gets to the sideline, but will he get in? Almost. Let's slow it down, take another look. How about the effort? Trying to get in, but the left foot just goes out of bounds. Regardless, effort like that earns us our play of the night. Be sure to join us each Friday night at this time for Overtime. We also rebroadcast the show Sunday mornings at 9 on Fox 39.
And remember, for highlights and scores anytime, go to our website, mystateline.com. By the way, tomorrow night on WTBO and Fox 39, this guy's going to have those Harlem-HONONEGAH highlights, so you're going to want to tune in for that.
Yes, absolutely.
That does it for this episode.
Enjoy your weekend, everybody.
Overtime, sponsored by Wendy's. They got you for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and everything in between.